All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. I would like to introduce myself. I'm Aaron Anderson, Shortlist Customer Success Manager. We're excited to be presenting our latest Shortlist features for your teams to better leverage our system to help build your network, scale your organization, and manage your talent. The topic for today will cover Shortlist Marketplace and enhanced onboarding. I'll walk you through an overview and setup of Marketplace and onboarding from multiple perspectives, including the freelancer's experience. Note that a recorded version of this webinar will be available after the session. And if you have any questions, please post them in the chat and we'll be sure to follow up after the session, or if we have time at the end, we'll get to them as well. I know everyone here that is attending is a current user of Shortlist, and this webinar is really intended to deepen your understanding of the functionality. So while we'll be discussing new features, we really want to focus on how this is applicable to you and your organization. You'll note that what I'm about to show you might look slightly different from the way that it's configured in your account, and that's okay. These features are here and ready for you to leverage. Let's get started. So the agenda for today's webinar, we're going to start with private marketplace and job openings. I'll give you a general overview of Marketplace and show you how we can create a new job opening, add custom fields, link your job openings to your onboarding workflows, post your job openings, review your candidate pipeline, and also leverage Team Board. I'll then go into our enhanced screening and onboarding workflows, giving you an introduction to the different types of stages, including external, internal, and action. I'll show us how we can edit workflows and stages, including setting up custom notifications, reviewing your progress, and progressing our candidates. I'll also show us how we can leverage our onboarding team board as well, and show you some new features and functionality around automating your interview scheduling. Let's take a look at the candidate lifecycle. So it starts around the job opening, and a candidate can apply on your portal or using one of the links. And it then goes into candidate management, where your team and managers can take a look at the different candidates that you have and move them through the different onboarding stages. Then it goes into the screening and onboarding, where they will enter different types of information. They can also sign different agreements or upload documents, and then move them into my shortlist. So with that, let's jump into the system and show you some of the features that I'm talking about. So starting here, we are on the My Talent page. And as you're all familiar with, this displays your freelancers and businesses. We can use the filters on top to drill down to a specific freelancer based on their type of skills or groups. And let's start over here on Marketplace. So you'll notice there's two tabs along the top. We have job openings and candidates. Job openings displays the list of job openings that I have available for new candidates to apply. Notice I have 3 of them here: a UI designer, copywriter, and creative design director. On my candidates tab, this is where I can see the full pool of candidates that have applied for one of my job openings. Note that I also have the filters on the top as well. So if I want to drill down and see candidates based on certain skill types, I can do that here as well. Something to note is that using Marketplace and candidates, it distinguishes different types of freelancer types. So here we have our pool of candidates, and we're still in the process of vetting and deciding if we want to work with them and actually move them to My Talent. And once we decided that they are a good fit and we do want to work with them, they'll be moved to My Talent. So really you have one system that can manage 2 databases with 2 different types of freelancers. Let's take a look at an existing job opening. So we'll use this UI designer here. Along the top, we have 3 tabs. We have our details, our candidates, and team board. Details includes the list or description that we want to display externally. Notice I can bold or add bullet points or numbering, and even add active links. And you'll see at the bottom here, we have 3 fields that have the lock icon. This means that these are custom fields for this job opening that are visible only to your team. So these can be useful if you want to keep track of any details internally for your job openings. You can see an example that we have here is a requisition number, requisition approved, and requisition approval date. And just to note, these are only visible to your team. On the right-hand side, we have the location. So we've defined this one as remote. We can see who it was created by, and we can see the onboarding and sourcing workflow that it's attached to as well. In the candidates tab, I can see the full list of candidates that have applied for this job opening, and I can see their current stage of their onboarding workflow, as well as when they were last active. I could even click on one of their names, and I'll have a pop-up window on the left-hand side that'll give me an overview of all their data that they've currently submitted in their onboarding workflow. I also have the team board tab right here, and this is where I can leave messages for my internal team. So you'll notice if I use the @ sign, I can go ahead and tag one of my current team members. So I'll tell Emily Brown that we're really excited about our current pool of candidates. And when I post this, Emily Brown is going to receive an email notification showing her what I've written here. She can then jump into Shortlist and add a reply or leave an additional comment. And it really allows your team internally to have ongoing discussions about this job opening without necessarily having it visible to your candidates. I want to bring our attention on the top right. We have some actions that we can take on this job opening, including marking it as complete. So when we have the candidates that we're looking for, we can mark it as complete. We can also copy this link. So if we want to post it on an external job board or send a link directly to a pool of candidates, we can do so. And on the far right-hand side, as we know, this is our actions menu. So we can cancel the job opening, we can edit it, we can review our candidates' progress within the onboarding workflow, and we can even preview and archive this job opening. So when I click preview, I can take a look at what it will look like externally to our candidates. So let's go ahead and copy this link, and I'll show you what the portal looks like and how your candidates can interact with this job opening. So I've taken the direct link, and this is what it looks like to your candidates. We see the title, the location, and the information that I've entered in the description piece. And notice those custom fields are not visible because those are internal facing only. When I'm ready to apply as a candidate, I'll click here, and I'll be directed to the registration page where I'll enter my name, email, and phone number. Before I move forward, we're going to finish out talking about Marketplace, but I'm going to pick back up here in just a few minutes. I want to bring our attention to our portal. So this is a portal that we've set up, including adding a cover photo, our logo, some welcome text, and I can see the list of active job openings that I have. And once again, I can click in and take a look at what this job opening is about. Now that I've given you an overview of job openings, let's create our own. So I'm going to click New Job Opening, and I'm going to enter a title. Let's create a new one called UX Designer. I can grab a description, so any responsibilities or requirements. And you'll notice at the bottom, I can use the bold, italics, or underline and other text editing features here to attract the attention of my candidates. Can also add a location. I can add an approver, someone from my team, and I can select the onboarding workflow. So I'm going to select the UX, UI, screening and onboarding workflow. And this field is our custom fields section. So when I select the requisition detail custom fields, notice I have 3 additional fields that popped up here. And this is where I can enter the requisition number. I can define the requisition approval date, and I can determine and I can mark whether this requisition was approved or not. So once I'm comfortable with what my new job opening details will be, I can click Create New Job Opening, and note that it'll start in the draft status, meaning this is internally visible only. Your external candidates won't see this yet, but when you're available for them to see this and start applying for this job opening, you can click Make Live. Notice that the status changes to Open. So once again, let's go ahead and copy this link, and let's look at the job opening that we just created. All right, here's our UX designer with the location description, and we can click Apply for this job. So that's an overview of Marketplace. We took a look at the job openings and candidates tab. We took a look at an existing job opening and created our own job opening. And now I want to transition into onboarding. So on the bottom left, we have our onboarding tab. Here we have 3 existing onboarding workflows that we've already created. We have different ones for the different types of roles. So let's say we needed to collect different types of information for copywriters versus someone who's going to be joining our creative design or UX or UI. We can create different workflows to collect different pieces of information from our candidates. So we'll focus on the UX and UI one today. And just to give you an overview of what this page looks like is on the left-hand side, we have the total freelancers that are in progress in this stage. We have each of the individual stages here, and this number represents the total amount of candidates within each stage. You can notice as I scroll down, I can see more information about each one of my candidates, and I can even click on one of their names and take a look at information that they've submitted. I can also click directly on one of these boxes along the top, and this will show me only the candidates within this particular stage. So let's go ahead, and I want to give you an overview of the different types of stages. So let's create a new workflow. So I start by entering a workflow name, and you notice this stages section right here. I have 3 options for selecting different types of stages. So I have the freelancer stage, and this includes different types of information that I can collect from my candidates or freelancers. So we'll start with data collection, and you notice I can I can select different fields that I want to pull in here. So I want to pull in description and LinkedIn profile. I can make these mandatory or not by clicking the checkbox. The next section is the selected request documents. So here I can add different documents that I want the candidate to upload. Let's say I want to have them upload their resume. I can do that. And I can also create new documents directly from the onboarding workflow. So let's say I want to ask them for a letter of recommendation. I can choose the document type, enter the name and description. And if it requires verification, I can check this box. I can make it mandatory or optional. and I can even add an expiration date that's required. The next freelancer facing stage is bank details. This bank details stage has a pre-existing set of fields that you can collect from your freelancers or candidates for them to provide their bank information. In a similar concept, we have tax information stage as well. And this is where your freelancers can provide their tax information. Once again, this is a pre-existing page that allows them to enter their tax details. No setups needed on either of those other than just adding the stage. Going down, we have portfolio. This allows your candidates to enter different videos or images. So if you have different freelancers that are on the creative side, they can upload different portfolio items and you can view them in a really beautiful UI on My Talent. This allows you to take a look at the types of content that your freelancers are creating. We also have our interview stage, and this is where we can integrate with Calendly. If you're not familiar with Calendly, it's a tool that allows you to sync your email, whether it's Office 365 or Outlook or Gmail. And what it does is it takes a look at your calendar and it finds the available slots that are open, and it makes it available for candidates to book a time on your calendar. I'm going to show you how this looks like live in just a few minutes, but this is the stage that we would add the calendar link here. The last two stages on freelancer facing are our questionnaire. And we can add questionnaires directly here. So let's say I need to collect certain pieces of information or put in a screening questionnaire here. I can add a section header, some text fields, numeric fields, percentages, and even multiple choice. I have some pre-existing ones that I'll show you in a few. And the last external facing stage is our sign agreement stage. This allows us to use our HelloSign integration to pull in different pieces of information that they may have already entered on their profile and allow them to digitally sign a document. So I'll show you what this looks like, but I have an NDA freelancers version here for this agreement, and they'll be able to go ahead and digitally sign that within that onboarding stage. So that's our freelancer or external facing stages. Our internal stages are similar, except they're only visible to your team. So in the same manner, we have the data collection where we can enter information such as we can define their hourly rate. And we also have the questionnaire as well. This is frequently used when you want to collect information from your team or your managers based off of an interview that they conducted, or just ask them more information about the candidate. And finally, we have our action stage. There are three components to an action stage, and essentially what this does is it allows the system to automatically take different actions to reduce the number of clicks and just to automate some of your processes. So when I click add action, I have the first one is set freelancer type. So I can mark this as a freelancer, and when I put this at the end of my onboarding workflow, when they've hit this stage, the system will automatically change their type from a candidate to a freelancer. And what that means is they move from the marketplace as a candidate into your talent network. So this helps automate the process just a bit in terms of defining who you have as a potential candidate versus someone that you're comfortable working with and want to start assigning tasks. Okay. The second action that we have is add to group. So let's say I was using the UX and UI. I can choose a certain group that I want to add everyone in this onboarding workflow to, right? So I'll choose the front-end web developers. And the last one is set relationship manager. So let's say Emily Brown is responsible for all of the UX managers. I can set this here, and when we reach this stage, she'll automatically be assigned as the candidate's relationship manager. So that's an overview of the different stages within an onboarding workflow. Let's take a look at the existing one that I have set up. So I'm going to click on the top right, and I'm going to click Edit Workflow. From here, I can take a look at the different stages that I've already created. I can distinguish between the different types of stages by looking at the action, by looking at this text here. So my action stages are always going to say action, and my internal stages are always going to say internal. For my freelancer facing stages, I can either set them as automatic or manual. Automatic allows them to move from one stage to the other without having any internal verification between those stages. So I've set these up all as automatic, and I'll give you an example of one that we might want to change to manual. So let's start in documents and details. I can see this is a data collection stage. And at the very top, I have this checkbox that I can select to add a stage description. So here I can mark welcome. I added some text here. Welcome to our application process. I can also select certain fields for them to enter. And I've also uploaded 2 requested documents for them to upload. Moving down, I also can define onboarding managers for each of the onboarding stages. So here, this is internally, I can define who I want to get notified whenever a candidate reaches this stage. So in this scenario, I've selected Emily Brown to be this onboarding manager for this stage, and she'll get a notification whenever someone enters this stage. Let's take a look at the schedule interview stage. So here I've added a stage description as well, and I've entered my Calendly link here. The next one you'll notice is internal. So I've set up a questionnaire for my managers to enter. So I can ask them questions after the interview to ask them to rate the candidate's communication skills, how their work history aligns with the job, their technical proficiency or organizational fit. These are ones that I created. So for your organization, you can create ones as needed. Let's take a look at the NDA agreement. So I've added this NDA freelancers agreement for my candidate to sign. And you'll notice the second to last stage is bank details. So this is where I want to request bank details from my candidate. But since it's one of the last stages, I also want to add some notifications that get sent out as well. So you'll notice this section at the very bottom. There's this section is applicable on any of the above stages as well. And this allows me to set up a notification that's going to trigger an email. We start by defining the recipients, right? So we can define who we want this to be sent to. So we've already defined it as sending this to the Shortlist support. In this example, we have an IT account set up. So when the candidate reaches this stage, we can add a subject and content around having the IT team creating an internal account or setting up an email for freelancers. Notice that these hashtags in yellow text means that they're dynamically pulling in information from the freelancer's profile or from the system. So here it's going to say the partner's name, it'll say my name at the bottom, and then it'll ask them to set it up for this person. The last thing on the notification is when to send this message. So 3 options. I can trigger this message when they leave the stage, when they enter the stage, or when the stage reaches 100%. So for this, let's define it as when they leave the stage, so that once they're completed with their bank details, this will trigger out to have IT set up their accounts. All right, I'll click save on that notification. And I also want to show you another use case that we can use notifications, and this is our welcome to our talent network. Notice that I've added the freelancer to the stage, so this is the recipient. I've used the subject line welcome to our talent network and pulled in the partner's name, telling them that we're thrilled to have them join our talent network, and telling them that they can take additional actions such as updating their profile and checking for any upcoming tasks or projects. And for this one, I'm going to send it when they leave the stage as well. So that's an overview of one of the existing UX and UI onboarding workflows that we have. I'm going to go ahead and transition and show us what this looks like from the candidate's perspective. So on my other screen, I had already had the UX designer job opening that we had created. And I know that this is attached to the UX UI screening and onboarding workflow. So let's start by entering our name. Today we're going to be Johnny Rosa. We'll enter our email address, our phone number, accept the terms and conditions and privacy policy, and click accept invitation. This will put us directly in the screening and onboarding workflow. So you notice this is the description text on this page that I've added. And I have the Your Details section with the fields that I have marked for my candidate to fill out. So I can fill out my description. It already pulls in my phone number. I can put a link to my LinkedIn profile, as well as my address. And I can define my years of experience as well. Notice this progress bar at the bottom. What this does is it pulls in the required fields, and it will dynamically update as I enter text on this page in the required fields. So you'll notice years of experience is empty, but when I add something, it tells me that it's at 100%. So all of the fields that are required to be completed before moving on is reflected as 100% completed. At the bottom, we have our 2 upload document sections. So I've requested for their professional license, but I've made it optional. And I've also requested their resume and CV. Let me show you what this looks like for the candidate. So when I click upload requested document, I can click drag and drop attachment or upload. So once I've loaded it, I'll click add document. And now the resume appears here on this page. So I'll click Save Changes to move me on to the next stage. And what it's doing is it wants me to confirm my email address. So I've received an email with a verification code. And that verification code that I can see on my other screen is 0317. And I'm able to move into the next step. So on this stage, I'm seeing my Calendly integration. So the candidate can go ahead and take a look at my calendar and what I have available. Note, they're not seeing the meetings that I have scheduled. The system is just automatically pulling in any availability time slots that I have. So I see that I have some time available on the 27th. So if I want to schedule a meeting with one of the managers for my organization, the candidate can find a time that's suitable for them. This really takes a lot of the manual work and the effort of coordinating back and forth on a good time to meet. All the candidate does is selects a good time, clicks confirm. You'll notice their name and their email address will automatically populate, and they simply click schedule event. Here I have a confirm status that tells me when my meeting is, and I have my personal Zoom meeting link so that when the time comes, they'll join my Zoom, as well as the time zone. And so this is already scheduled, and both the candidate and your manager will receive an email. So I can see this has been scheduled with Aaron Anderson. And from here, I can also directly add this to my Google Calendar or my Outlook. When I have scheduled this, the candidate can click Save Changes, and I get notified saying that this is all I need to do now, and that will notify them about next steps when they're available. So I'll go back to my dashboard. From here, the candidate can take a look at their dashboard and interact with it. Let's go ahead and upload a picture. All right, so here's Johnny Rose's image. It's been uploaded to their profile. And now when I'm gonna go ahead and switch gears and take us into the manager or your team's view. And we will take a look at the details that Johnny has just submitted. Okay, so he passed the document and details and the scheduled interview. So he's going to be in the interview screen notes. Notice his image appears here, and when I click this row, I can see the current stage. So as a manager, this is telling me that I'm requested to enter the questionnaire information. So I'll mark him as an eloquent communicator. He has advanced technical proficiency and potentially a good organizational fit. I'll save the progress that I've entered, and I want to point out this all data tab here as well. So this displays the information that they've submitted. So instead of clicking onto Johnny Rose's profile directly, this allows me to take a look at the information that he submitted in a quick view, and I can even download the documents that he's uploaded, including his resume. Notice it downloads directly to my desktop. I can see that the interview has been scheduled, and I can see the interview notes that I've entered so far. So as a manager, I think Johnny is a great fit, so I'm gonna move him forward in the process. So I'm gonna click Save and Proceed, and this is gonna move him on to the NDA agreement. So we'll notice Johnny is now in the NDA agreement. So let's switch gears again and show you what this looks like from Johnny's perspective. So you'll notice under his to-do list, he has an NDA agreement, so he can complete his onboarding here. But he'll also have a little flag under the onboarding link on the left that he can click to view any outstanding onboarding items. So we'll click on NDA agreement. And here we have the preview and sign feature built into the system that allows the candidate or the freelancer to enter information, and it'll also pull in any existing information that they've entered if you wanted to. And this is where they can enter a partner name. So they'll enter their name. And notice at the bottom, I'll also have a place for them to sign. So they can put in their digital signature. And I'll sign my name again. And when all of my fields are complete, a green bar will show up. I'll click continue and I agree. And just like that, I have digitally signed an NDA agreement. The status bar will update to 100%, and I'll click Save Changes. And taking a look on the other side as well, I can also view the NDA agreement that he had just signed. So I know that he's going to be moved to the next stage. So he was automatically moved to bank details. So I can see him here. And when I go back to all data, I can scroll down. And when I click the NDA freelancers agreement, this will open up a PDF view of the NDA that he signed. Okay. So let's go take a look again, and we'll have Johnny fill out his bank details. So here he is on his bank details onboarding stage, and we have the bank details widget. If you are a payments customer, this should look familiar to you. If you're not a payments customer, we also have bank details fields that are standard that we can add to this bank details section as well. So the first question it asks is information about taxes. So I can define whether I'm an individual, so sole proprietor, etc. It pulls in my first and last name. I'll enter my address. My state and zip. I'm required to enter my date of birth. And I can enter my phone number as well. My tax ID type. So if I'm a business, I'll put in my EIN. I can also enter my social security number and click next. This brings me to the bank account page. So if I'm already banking with one of the top 100 banks that we have around the world, I can go ahead and select it from this list, or I can search for it here. Let's say Johnny banks with Chase Bank. It'll open up the widget to allow him to enter his user ID and password that'll automatically link with his account. He can select which account he wants the direct deposit to go into. And after connecting this account, he'll be directed to a finished page and he can complete this stage. You can also add their account manually, so you can see the bank name. So I'll just add this manually for us. And click next. And now I've entered my bank details. I'm in the payable status and my status is updated to 100%. So I'll go ahead and click Save Changes. Note that when I do, there's an action stage that occurs after the fact. So when I click Save Changes, this is going to trigger email notifications that get sent out of the system. And I'll show you an example of one of these right now that we've already set up. So here is the email that was triggered. I can see, Dear Johnny Roja, we're thrilled to have you join our talent network. Feel free to update your profile and check your tasks, etc. Okay, and it has an active link that directs him back to his dashboard. So that's an overview of onboarding. We went through the different stages from the candidate view, and also we're able to manage him from the team view. I want to go back to onboarding. Let's make sure we've covered everything. So you'll notice after he's finished bank details, he'll end up in the finished pile. And here he is. So he's completely finished his onboarding. Remember, we had the action stage that has him set to a freelancer after he's entered his bank details. So now I can take a look at my talent and I'll search for Johnny Rosa. Here he is. I'll take a look at his profile, and you notice that all the information that he had entered during his screening and onboarding stages carry over to his record as a freelancer. So from here, I can take a look at some of the information that he submitted, including any documents such as the resume or the agreement that he has, and take actions from here if I need to. So with that, that's an overview of our screening and onboarding. I want to pause for some questions. Take a look if we have any particular questions we want to talk about today. All right, it looks like my colleague Dylan has been answering a lot of these questions live, which is fantastic. So if you look in the Q&A section, it looks like we have a lot of fantastic questions that Dylan's been answering. So take a look there if you want to see some questions that other people have asked. If there's any other additional questions, you can post them now, and we will gladly go through and answer those with you. In the meantime, I wanted to just thank everyone for participating in today's session. And note that if you're ready to implement some of these features that we talked about today, we'd love for you to contact your account manager or email us at support.shortlist.co. To those of you who we've already contacted to move from the legacy onboarding to our new workflows, go ahead and reply to us and set up a time at your convenience so we can start having a workshop with you. So we're really excited to workshop and bring you these new features to help you leverage Marketplace and onboarding. I also want to point our attention, we have an idea board that is in our chat widget on the bottom right hand of any of the pages within the Shortlist application. And so we really encourage you to post your different ideas for new features. So you can simply click suggest an idea, and you can also scroll through existing ideas that we have on the idea board. And this is really useful because we want our customers to be providing feedback for what they'd like to see in the application in the future. So this allows us to have visibility. You can also upvote particular ideas that you have and take a look at what some other people have submitted as well. With that, I'm going to leave this webinar open, but I'm going to conclude today's session. And I just want to let you know that we are really excited to bring you more features that are going to help your organization continue to build and scale and allow you to really efficiently manage your external talent network. So from all of us at Shortlist, we hope you have an absolutely wonderful day. And like I said, we'll keep this open. I'll stop sharing my screen, but we're happy to answer questions for the next 5 to 10 minutes. Thank you, everyone. And yes, we will be emailing this webinar out, the recorded version out to everyone. Thank you.